Let me guess, you're from the town that I love best. Talk Memphis, I wish you would. Talk Memphis, you sound so good.
We're going to talk today about why do you negotiate, or what do you negotiate in investment real estate. So a lot of people ask, can I ask for this? Can I ask for that? And
this is a good topic for you because you're doing that all day, every day, right?
I do it all day, every day, and I get strange requests, I get normal requests, I get all kinds of stuff. So it's a matter of,
what's the strangest one you ever gotten that you can think of off the head?
Oh man, it's not strange as in like, oh my gosh, can't believe somebody asked that, but strange in a real estate deal. Like I've asked somebody to pay for title searches and inspections and stuff like that. I'm like, it's just so.
Not the norm.
I mean, I guess you can, no one gets offended, but it's like, what are you doing? So we'll go through this kind of step by step and figure out kind of some of the things that you can negotiate. I mean, technically the answer to this question is you can ask for anything.
That's
you can
right.
ask them to come cut
all
your
they can
grass.
Say is no,
for
is what I always say.
I mean, all they can say is no. Now, you do run a fine line of offending somebody.
That's right.
and
pushing it too far.
Yeah, pushing it too far, because then we've talked about this before, or we talk about this often, but you want to go into a deal, and this is kind of we'll dive into our notes in a second, but you want to go into a deal, and everybody, this is just in every case, everybody needs to feel like they've won.
That's so funny. I just wrote this, don't lose out on the win-win.
Yeah, that's what I like. Everybody,
don't lose sight of that.
Yeah, everybody feels like they've got to win and have not only get what they want, but feel like they put one over on seller or buyer.
Yeah, they cut them at the knees kind of concept. Like that's not a good long-term strategy in my opinion.
No, because you're going to fight and scrap, and you're going to get into a bunch of offend, and you're going to
make agents mad, the buyers or sellers mad,
develop
the attorneys mad because they've been working on this deal, and you keep nitpicking to death and asking for this and asking for that. The attorneys get fed up with that kind of stuff. And they'll actually stop working with you from that angle because they get a set fee. Those guys are in the rich dad quadrant. They're self-employed, right?
Yep.
So they eat what they kill.
That's right.
And so you get say $350 for a closing, and this guy's wearing you out trying to push for this, push for that. Again,
where's the line? Where's
the line to draw, right? So
everybody feels like they want to win, and oftentimes it's difficult to get both sides to feel like they've won. And I guess in my line of work, that's my job.
Yes.
It's my job to make both, especially if I represent both sides. But if I don't, then it's my job to get my client to understand, and the other buyer or seller's agent or whoever their representative is to understand why we're doing this, why we're asking for this, or why we won't give that, or why we're not going to accept that. So,
you bring up a good point. I think, again, we haven't gone into kind of what to negotiate, but I feel like, even agents lose sight of that sometimes.
Every day.
It's like a silo. This is my client, and you got to do this, and this has got to be done. And I understand fiduciary responsibility and all that stuff, but there is the relationship piece of just what happens with the next deal and the next deal. And
I got a quick story, and I'll tell it. I'm in a deal we just got out of it. So I have
wasn't a win-win?
No, it wasn't. So I have a client, and he's likely listening now, but we're flipping a house in East Memphis. Big home, nice home. $449,000 was the list price. Super great job on the rehab, kitchen, bathrooms. Top of the line stuff. Agent comes in, $415,000.
What was the list?
$449,000. $415,000. It's like, whew. And then he gave me the spiel of, $425,000 is their max out, but we just wanted to show it anyway. I'm like, see, you're already
had
the agent's already starting a negative experience for everybody.
Right.
So we counter back up, and they counter back, and ultimately we're dealing with, I'll fast forward, about $5,000 difference. Agent's not moving. We're done. We've done everything. We came down to 20 or 30 grand. So the seller in this instance gave a great effort, a good effort to try to get this thing done. And the agent comes back to me and he says, man, I've been doing this a long time. I've never lost a deal over $5,000. I said, you know what? We're thinking the same thing. They take a timeout. So it's a week later and they come back and they show it again. And the agent gave me a worse offer.
Below 415?
Yeah. Wanted to renegotiate, like almost assuming we're desperate. And he got offended and he got worked up and now they're gone. So to me,
why'd he get offended?
We don't know. He just got upset and said, man, your seller's going to develop a bad reputation and this is a small little village, and started giving me the rundown like I just started in the business myself. So,
right.
And any agent, I'll tell you this, and this is just a soapbox, but any agent that one of the first conversations they tell you is how long they've been in it, you know it's going to be a pain because they're going to be right no matter what because of what they just think that they've told you. You know, I've been in it 40 years, they said. I don't care if you've been in it 40 minutes.
Right.
It's all a deal. So the deal's dead. We never agreed to anything over $5,000. 1%. Mm-hmm. So we couldn't figure it out over 1%. They left, they're gone. And emotions got caught up in it. The seller got upset. It was a take it or leave it type of thing. They left it, then came back. I mean, it was a mess. So when you let your emotions get involved with this sort of thing, whether you're the agent or the buyer or the seller or whatever, if you let your emotions get involved, you're going to set yourself up for not getting that deal or not getting that property. So yeah, it happens every day. I mean, it just happened to us. I mean, so it's an everyday deal. It's an everyday deal that you have to kind of work through and navigate through. So when we talk, go ahead.
I was say, but it plays into but at the same time, you still need to be prepared and, look at negotiating everything.
Absolutely.
And then, or deciding what your absolutes are, like for Douglas and I back in the day, I think, we would be, we got people that die by the sword about personal guarantees. They will not sign a personal guarantee. You can't get them. They'll do non-recourse, and that wasn't one of the things that we just had to die by the sword, because we felt like we're going to pay our bills. We've had that story on the radio of one of our buddies in town that got stiffed by his partner, left town, and the guy paid that debt for like 5 or 6 years.
Which is nuts.
And so that's kind of how we feel. And so that was, something that wasn't, was negotiable. Yeah. But, as we always try to do no money down for every deal we do. One way, somehow, somebody's financing it, season it some way, somehow to get it where we can refi real quick or whatever it is to
get that money back,
our money back out, keep our cash, and it's a bigger purpose for us to keep the cash in the business so that we can, safeguard against,
keep moving.
Like for instance, you got the month of October, what happens with the HVAC and all that kind of stuff? It slows down. Yeah. You still got, 5, 6, 7 guys that you're paying on the payroll. So you got to be prepared for those kind of fluctuations and cash flow and business operations. And, that picks back up in November, your first freeze. But that's right. It's a bigger picture.
You got a gap right there.
That's right.
So when we're talking about, what do you negotiate in real estate? The simple answer is every single thing. What are, the obvious ones are the price. Yep. That's the kind of the first thing. Right. I mean, when you go into looking at a property, the very first thing you're looking at is a price. Well,
and then, I was dealing with this the other day. Like, whoever speaks first loses.
You believe in that?
I do believe, unless wholesalers have to, they get in a spot where they're pushed to give an offer a lot of times, and we all are in society. Like, that's why like the 415 came. So if you are going to speak first, you go lower than what you're willing to do. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
he just went too low.
He went too low, right?
Offensive low.
But yeah, so you try to get the other person to come down. Like, I'm sure your seller has a range of what he's willing to go down to as well. Yeah. And you know that in your back pocket, but you're going to stick with your asking. That's why the asking price is the asking price, because
it's my job to get my client the most money.
That's right. So
price is some of the first things we talk about. It's everybody automatically assumes that you're going to go low on a price or at least negotiate the price. Now, demand will eliminate that. If it's a high demand area or a high demand property, price might not be the first thing you negotiate. There might not be any negotiating. You might just have to, depending on how bad you want it or where it's at, you might just have to accept it.
Yeah. I think, and I mean, that's a crucial piece for, for both sides. Like, we had a house down the street from us that the agent underpriced it and had 12 offers, the first day. Overpriced, over listing, so that everybody knew the value that was out there. If I was that homeowner, I'd be a little bit upset.
Who was the agent? No, don't say that. I'm just
Gene
kidding.
Harris at
CrestCore?
I'm just kidding.
No, don't say that.
It was, and then on the flip side, you got one that everybody's trying to get the almighty max.
Yeah,
and then there's no offers. So
there's
that
a fine
price
line.
has got to be, you got to be close to market. So.
We're learning a little bit of that lesson now, that going high on every one of these properties might not be the best idea.
Yeah, that's true.
It might not. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, there's something to be said for going $10,000 or $15,000 low on a list and creating a sense of urgency and moving that thing in 30 days.
I was laughing yesterday. We decided to sell a house yesterday, and Doug was like, "You want to give it to Dean?" I was like, "Yeah," and I bet he's going to say 25,000.
And then what'd
you say?
25,000.
24.9.
Well, I mean,
I just laughed. I was like, "I just know your MO, and you're looking. You're moving it. You want to move it fast, and
I want to move it right away. It's not, y'all don't want to have it sit. I could put it on there for 35 and let it sit there for 90 days. And
so I was $100 off my guess. I should have bet some dinner or something.
So price. So we're gonna sell that thing or what? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's right.
Price, terms. Let's
terms
expand.
is big.
Yeah, let's expand on terms for a minute. That can be anything, Dan. I've seen over the years. I have seen anything and everything come across as far as terms.
Interest rate,
all
amortization, contingency on financing, not contingent on financing. I mean,
inspections, appraisals.
Yeah, I mean, it goes on and on. I mean, I think the better the terms, the price goes up. In my opinion, I don't know what your thoughts on that. The worse the terms, then the price goes down.
That's kind of your philosophy on, your price, my terms.
Your terms, my price. Absolutely. So,
which I like. Go through that. I explain, because we did that a month or two ago. But explain what you mean by that, because you've done this hundreds of times.
Yeah.
So tell that phrase. Say that phrase again, and then explain.
Your price, my terms. Your terms, my price.
All right. Now explain that.
So if you want something, I mean, I'm working on this right now. A guy wants $300,000, and that's his number. At 5%, that didn't really work for us, on a 15-year note. Well, can you do 3%? At 3%, I feel pretty good with where the market's going and all that kind of stuff. I'll give you that number that you in your mind, you're wanting that 300 for whatever reason. In my mind, that's high for the market value, what's going on. So I'm willing to give you your price, but I really need I need a little bit of discount on that interest rate. And so if you're willing to do that, let's get a deal done and move on. So
how often do you?
Every time.
Do you really? On every deal?
Yeah.
You bring that up.
Absolutely. Or owner finance. I mean, I'm talking to a guy right now with, a group of houses, and
that's where I think it's the most applicable, if that's the right grammar. I think that
group of houses,
either group or an owner finance.
Yes, that's right.
Because they're the most flexible. They don't have guidelines to go by.
And we'll think about terms of banks. I mean, think about a 15-year versus 30-year. Are the interest rates the same?
No.
A 15-year is better. No, it's lower than a 30-year, right? Why?
Because you're getting that money back quicker.
Because they're getting that money. They've got less risk exposure. Whoever's loaning you that money, if the interest rate, if you get it locked in at 5 and the interest rates go to 7, 8%, in a 15-year, they got a lot to lose on a 30-year versus the 15.
That's right.
So that's why your 15 is going to be lower than your 30. So the banks are doing the same thing to us.
Oh, yeah.
They're giving you the terms that's going to be most favorable to them, and you got to pick which one matches what you're trying to do. So, that's my favorite. A mentor of mine in Charlotte told me that years ago, and I've
stuck with it.
That and choices, as we talked through this about negotiating. I mean, you might say, your price and term is this, or we can do this price and term, and hand two choices to. You're fine with either one,
yeah,
because to you it's a win.
Yep.
And hopefully one of those two will be a win for them in their mind, or what their goal, or what they're trying to do. So that's where the win-win can come.
I love
about.
that. Your price, my terms.
Your terms, my price.
So parts of the terms are financing cost.
Yeah, that's dealing with the bank now.
Yeah, now you're talking with the bank, or if you're an owner finance, you're dealing with
hard money.
Yeah, hard money.
Yeah.
That's right. That's a popular decision these days, is to go that route. So part of the terms, we got points, interest rates. How much movement do you get when you talk about interest rates with banks, especially? I mean, they seem like they come to you and say, "This is it. Take it or leave it."
I think, and I wrote on my notes, just relationship over penny pinching. I think that's a key thing to remember. Like, I just had this conversation. It's funny, there's relevant sometimes because it's always happening. But I talked to a bank yesterday. He's like, "I can get you 5.5% on this deal you're working on. Interest rates are going up." And he just said, he mentioned the fact that he likes that, we're not shopping his deal. We're trying to have a relationship with him and have long-term growth.
He was appreciative
of that fact. So are there times where, this is where it's just interesting. I hope our listeners can grasp this and really run with it. Like, say you got a great relationship with this bank. He's gotten to know you. You got some deposits over there. He's done $250,000 worth of loans for houses, whatever that kind of scenario can be. And then you're going to say, all right, he's going to tell you, all right, this loan's 5.5%. It's like, oh man, well, let me go see what so-and-so is going to give me, and let me go see what so-and-so is going to give me. You do that 3 other times, then you come back and try to beat him up. That ain't going to go well.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just not going to go well. And
if he accepts it, he's not,
this is where people get lost in this. Is like, and it's funny, the banker is your advocate. So whoever you're dealing with, they're your salesperson.
Because they got to go before the board.
They got to go before a board of guys that own the bank.
And say, this is why I want to
go. This is why I'm vouching for this guy. The deal, whether it's, you're just starting out, or you already got several loans with them, so you got some exposure, all the scenarios, and then you're going to, beat me up about 1/4 point.
Which really doesn't affect anything that you're doing. It just doesn't.
Is it money? Yes. But
is it enough to sour a relationship?
Yeah, I just don't think so. And I think if our listeners, if you're playing that's the way you're playing, I think you're going. That's going to work for you short term. It's kind of like that book I was telling you about, the Give and Take book that I'm reading, which I'm just loving. That's just it. If you're going after it that way, you're going to win short term. And then short term can be defined, who knows? Could be several years. But over 10, 15 years, it ain't going to work. You're going to top off, you're going to tap out, and you're going to have so many burned relationships throughout the city.
That's what I was about to say.
You're going to have to move or start in another city or something.
You're going to eventually get to where you're chasing something every month. Or every
You're
quarter,
working twice as hard as me.
Yeah. And maybe I'm paying a little bit more, but that time that I'm not using trying to negotiate something so small. If it's a whole lot, well, then negotiate. But if we're talking about 1/4 point or a few $100s in a transaction, or even a few $1,000s in a huge transaction, is it worth it?
As we do some loans and stuff like that, and the guys that just we talk up front. Here's our program. Hey, but as we move forward, let's renegotiate or give you more of the rehab costs. Whatever we talk about is a conversation.
Yep.
And then we just start working. But if it's every deal, I'm less likely to try to
work with you.
I just don't have time. I don't.
It's exhausting.
So that's what I guess I'm saying. If I'm the bank, I'm telling you how I would feel. I was the banker. So everything's negotiable. I guess that's the whole point of this whole radio show. Is like, but you got to walk a fine line of relationships and win-win, and giving and taking, and just balancing that act. I think that's crucial in all this. I talked to a guy Saturday, and Jack, a friend of mine, he was just talking about on real estate how, it's just the upstandingness of it. It's just not there. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's trying to undercut, and it's transaction based, and
You're in the underbelly.
It's in this underbelly weird world, and he just comes to expect that is what he was. I guess my point on that. I kind of got lost in my words.
Well, and some people you offend people.
Yeah.
You'd like to think that no one puts emotion into it, but they do.
Well, that banker was giving me an example. He's like, he spends 3, 4, 5 hours, whatever, trying to prepare something. And then you come saying, well, I've been shopping this. And he's thinking, I've just wasted 3 or 4 hours. And I could have done a $500,000 deal over here for those 3 or 4 hours of somebody that wants that relationship. You got to think about it in their mind. You can't just be thinking about what's in your mind about just trying to get that almighty dollar.
I agree
penny.
with you.
So.
And I've been one. I think I've said this on the air before, talking about hard money lenders. I don't have any problem using hard money lenders for certain things.
Sure.
At a 10% rate, what do I care? If I'm going to,
you're still making money.
I'm still making money. And the goal I've always said with these rental properties is to pay them off. Right. I don't have these rentals that I have to have them so I can say I got them.
Sure.
The idea is to have them only to pay them off for that residual income down the road.
Right.
So if someone makes 10% off of me the whole time, yet it still fits into my numbers, it cash flows, it's paying that note down or whatever, so what?
Right.
And not everybody looks at it like that though, Dan. Some people look at that and it's like 10, never.
Right.
But what does that limiting belief do for you?
You're stuck in your tracks.
You're stuck, and it won't let you keep going on to the next thing, and it won't let you keep moving way on down the road. Well, can you move down the road doing it that way? You can, but can you get 10 miles quicker? No.
Yeah, especially in today's market. When we first started, banks were just almost throwing money at you. It's a whole different world right now.
Yeah,
they are scared.
Killed everybody.
They still remember stuff from 10 years ago.
Yeah,
it's like, guys, come on. Yeah, like victim mentality. They
are.
Woe is me. I'm not doing that again. So
all right, we're talking about with Dan Butler, and we're talking about what do you negotiate in real estate. The key word is everything. Closing costs, Dan. What do we? Attorneys' fees, things like that. How often in real estate? In investment real estate, do we hear about closing costs? I know for me, it's rare
do what?
To ask for one side or the other to pay for each other's closing costs.
Yeah. Buyer pays buyer. Closing.
Yeah. In residential, you get that.
Yeah.
You get a buyer that comes in, especially first-time buyers. They don't have a lot of cash. Will you pay for my 3.5% or 4% closing costs? Mm-hmm. In investment deals, that scare for whatever reason that scares sellers. What? They need help to buy this? That's what that's the image, or that's the message you're sending when you're asking for the seller to literally help facilitate the loan. Now, in a residential, it's completely different. So I know a lot of people are listening. They got their own personal home and they have investment homes. In residential, it's okay to say, hey, I'm a first-time home buyer. We don't have a ton of cash, or even a second-time home buyer, but I just don't have a ton of cash.
I'll pay you more, but I need closing costs.
I'll pay your full price. But man, I need that
price terms.
That's exactly right. That's price terms. So that happens a lot in retail and residential real estate. In investment deals, I very rarely get, will you pay my own closing costs? Now,
I always, my big differentiator that I always say is investment properties are as is.
Yes. It should be.
It's not an absolute, but that's kind of where you kind of land. It's like retail, you got all these caveats and all this contingencies and repairs and inspections, and investment properties kind of like it's as is. Here's the tenant, here's the house.
Yeah.
Here it is. Do you want it? Kind of thing. And if you're not, I'll find the next guy. Right. That has the cash or the financing or whatever.
Because it should be cash flowing, and that's another thing that I think is misunderstood with investor buyers sometimes is, if it's cash flowing and there's a tenant in there, this seller doesn't have to sell it. Maybe they're just retiring or doing some of the other things we talked about last week.
Right.
But if it's cash flowing, this is not a desperate situation.
Right.
This is something that somebody wants to do. They're trying to add to their portfolio. So attorney's fees, insurance, who pays what at closing, again,
it's all this like attorney fees, you get what you pay for.
You know that firsthand, right?
Yeah, I learned that early on. There's one that I was dealing with last week, with a client that I haven't closed with this guy in over 10 years because I'm still waiting on my paperwork. I'm not telling you that. I'm still waiting on my paperwork from closing 10 plus years ago.
You still hadn't got it?
Right. It's a moot point. Everything's gotten filed and all that stuff, but we never got our copies. And And so we went through a closing with one of our clients at this place, and like cheap deal, blah blah blah. But man, you know, no response. Oh, it went in my spam folder. I mean, it was just an excuse after excuse. I mean,
all you had to do is email it to you, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it was just crazy, and it's like, and all for how much do you think as a general somebody that just is undercutting everybody else? You know what I mean? Like, what do you think? Saving $100,
maybe.
That's what I was. $100,
75,
$100,
all to save 100. You're really or you're irritating the crap out of somebody.
Do we have the clicker that beeps?
Yeah. I just got the nod that I'm okay. So
you got the nod.
Yeah. So you're irritating somebody.
I'm sure more worse to settle the weekends up here. I saw the sign backwards.
Dang, there you go.
That was funny.
But oh man, we've gone way off the rail now. What were we talking about? The beat button.
The attorney, the
you're
fees.
Irritating somebody over $100.
That's right.
You're trying, you know, because I understand it's $500 to $600 to close a deal, so you want it for $450. I mean, you can really that right there can set somebody completely off.
Now, if that person for $100 less is a factory and they got processes and they're buttoned up and they are attorneys, I mean, that's one thing. But if it's, you know, just they're just doing it to get the volume and don't have really the back end of support and the right culture to support, where they feel like they're fiduciary to cover you, you know, like they just, you know, anyway, it's just short-sighted versus long-term thinking.
And I want to get the message out that we are not saying don't try to negotiate and get better terms.
No, it's just a win-win, and just what's the best for everybody.
But at some point, there is you're going down this path and you're in a zone where it is win-win. Yeah. And if you keep pushing it and keep driving it, you're going to be out of that zone where you're winning, they're losing, and everyone's upset. Yep. So that's something just to kind of keep in mind. All right, another point that we've talked about parts of the terms, points. Yeah. Interest rates, closing cost, attorney fees, insurance. I mean, you can negotiate just about anything. Due diligence. This is one that people.
This is big for you.
Yeah, it is for me, because people go back and forth on a time frame, and you know how
inspections, long, repair amounts,
appraisals that come through getting a loan,
financing,
and the biggest question is how long. How long do I have to do that? Well, the seller wants you to have 30 minutes.
Right.
You know, the buyer wants
That's
to
where they're starting. They're starting tomorrow is
that's right.
Into due diligence.
The buyer wants 15 to 30 days.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, of course, we end up settling between 7 and 10 days, just depending on how big the property is.
And the buyer wants to, I mean, especially wholesalers, they want the contract to say, if I sneeze wrong, it's canceled.
I can get out. And most of my clients, you know, they have me write that in there. Yeah. Hey, Dean, I want you to write in this contract that if in 7 days I want out, then I want out. I don't even want to give an explanation.
Yeah.
So that scares me a little bit when we start, you know, because then I wonder how serious they are about the whole thing. But
I mean, how you know, for inspections and appraisals, I mean, like, how hard do you push your clients on asking for that or not asking for that?
Which side, sellers?
The buyer.
How hard do I push on asking for an inspection?
Yeah.
Well, we have it on every one. It's just I go for, if I'm representing the buyer, I go for 10.
10 days?
Yeah, on a single family. If it's multifamily, you know, 30. But does
that normally work pretty well on most offers, 10 days?
You get a little pushback.
Do you? Mm-hmm. What's the other side want? 7. So
7 is pretty typical, a week.
Is it?
And to be honest with you, I mean, it's like you should be able to get everything done in a week.
Yeah.
Because if you're making an offer on a property, surely you've got, you know, you've already thought, well, I'm getting a loan, so we're going to get an appraisal, and I'm going to get an inspection done, and I'm going to hire a licensed guy to go in there too.
So does inspection come first as a drop dead date, and then appraisal?
Yeah.
Is next? Is there time to get that appraisal?
Well, it's the whole thing is contingent. So, no, there is no real time frame on the appraisal, because we don't know when the appraiser is going to call us. We don't know when the mortgage company is going to order it.
So you can pass inspection in 7-10 days.
And then appraisal
come right behind it.
And it's low.
It blows the deal up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then financing behind that, right?
And then financing behind that.
So you could actually, so for our listeners, kind of that price terms, like if you don't have don't need financing, don't need appraisal, and or don't need inspection, you just dropping off the inspection
is huge.
It's huge, right? So then you move right to, hey guys, I just need this thing to appraise, and hopefully you've taken proof of funds or some sort of officer's guidance line or
I have
bank
to have
note.
it. I got to have proof of funds or a pre-approval
Yeah.
letter or something.
So you do that on the front end. So that's something for our listeners to understand. Like, you don't just wait
No.
till after the appraisal and then go to your bank and say, hey, man, I need a loan for $50,000. And they're like, okay, well, we got to go for a committee. It's 3 weeks later.
I actually won't write offers now or accept offers as a listing agent without a proof of funds or pre-approval letter. You can't.
Yeah.
It doesn't do me any good or my client any good to go through the exercise of negotiating a deal and getting it all settled, and then the buyer go to the bank and they can't get a loan.
When's the last time that's happened to you? Where it passed inspection, passed appraisal, and then no financing?
Last month.
The bank just wouldn't do it.
Or the agent came to us and said the bank wouldn't do it.
Wow.
See, if I'm not repping the other side, then I don't
know
really
what's going on.
Not really.
Yeah.
I'm totally at the mercy of what the agent's telling me. So, agent came to us 3 or 4 days before. Oh, the underwriter's not going to approve this loan. And guess
They say
what?
why?
They get their no, of course not. They got a letter from the bank,
Saying they wouldn't.
but they also get their earnest money back
Yes, that's messed up.
because they can't get the loan.
But that puts you off for what, 20 plus days?
Yeah, it
30
puts
days?
my seller out for almost a month. I mean,
Yeah.
now that's why I always tell investors, if you can get a tenant in your property, get it in there, because we could sell this thing in a week, or we could sell this thing in 3 or 4 months. So either way, get a tenant in there. But so your due diligence is one of the things that you can negotiate. Your 7 to 10 day period. So possession date, Dan. A lot of people. I mean, I don't get this a ton with single family, but I get this a little bit with multifamily. Is what date are we actually going to we're going to close. We want to take possession on this date. Sometimes in residential real estate, you'll get a possession date. Hey, we want to move in 2 weeks before we close, or we want to take possession the 2 days after we close, or whatever it may be. Everybody's circumstance is different. Do you get any of this possession date with investment deals?
Yeah, I mean, we're in the middle of right now with some of our clients selling a package, and they're supposed to close Friday. Didn't fund. Now we're into Tuesday. Monday went by, still no funding. Here we are Tuesday. And so how do you handle management? Rents come in. You know what I mean?
It's a mess.
It's a mess. So possession date needs to be a negotiated, or, part of that negotiating when, transfer of actual management or transfer of rent collections, or, I would probably get October rents paid on the HUD and have possession, kind of 1031. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was just about to explain.
Let the current owner to go ahead and collect all of October.
Possession,
have your eyes on it, but
possession date with investment deals has a whole lot to do with not literally when is it mine, but when is the rent prorated.
Yeah, it's more important versus retail. Like our personal house that we just bought, its possession was after an estate sale.
Right.
I didn't care.
Of course not.
They were in town. I wanted to get it closed. Kind of their terms. What they needed.
Your price. That's right.
Your price. My price, actually.
That's right. Yeah.
So we didn't get it till a week later, and I'm okay with that. But on the investment property, to your point, it's really about rent collection. And I mean, if it's vacant, it's a whole nother. That's
doesn't really matter. Just
matter at
close
all.
it and whatever. But
when you got tenants involved, it's a possession date is a real critical part.
Because we transfer 100% of the security deposit. That's not prorated.
No.
And we do transfer 100% of the prorated rent. So if you close on the 10th, and I think everybody should understand what that means. You close a certain date, you get the proration of the remaining month's rent credited to you. So that's something else that you can negotiate under the umbrella of possession date. You can go after that. Now, what are some of the other things, Dan, that you look at when you're talking about negotiating?
Do you rent it out now before or after closing? Do you allow the owner to go ahead and rent it out to somebody with your approval? Do you want them just placing the body into your house?
Yeah.
I mean, that's come up at least three or four times in the last 2 months that I can think of, where the house closed tomorrow and we placed a tenant today, and then it's like, whose leasing fee is that? Who gets charged? I mean, it's a lot to think about that people just take for granted. And then when you talk about a few $100 here and there after closing, and your first month rent was $700 and $300 of it goes away for the move-in cost or whatever, leasing fees, it's a lot of money. So, you got to think through that of, do you want, if it's vacant, and you got somebody managing it or whatever, do you want them to rent it out for you? Or do you want have you ever done that in a contract where you approve the actual application?
I took one.
Yeah.
I took one on one of mine. I had the seller was active in that market and had a tenant base already. He had 40 or 50 houses over in that area. So he had a clientele of tenants that would call his rehab guys. So he said, hey, man, I know we're under contract, but I've got a tenant that's looking to move in. You know, what do you think? I was like, well, just pass me her application and just see. So, I mean, he was like, you know, I would put her in there. It's like, okay. I was like, well, you know, let's put her in there and let's see. It's been okay. It's been all right.
Did you look at the application?
I did. I went through it. Everything looked halfway normal, but it's been okay.
She had a pulse?
Yeah, she was alive. No,
alive.
Yeah, so it was...
work sometimes.
Yeah, they've been behind a little bit. They came in Friday and paid everything.
But that's something, to your point, to all of this, is just think through some of that. Where's their money going before and after closing? If it's vacant, what are you going to do with that applicant? Do you want them to have an applicant?
Right.
And some people are adamant no.
Yeah, they want to control. I have some investors say, I want to control every aspect of this so I can at least blame myself.
Blame yourself.
That's right.
That's admirable.
Taking some responsibility for it. This is a big one, and we'll have this one and one more before we close out. But this is a big one for me: the ability to negotiate repairs.
Yeah. So
there's some confusion, I think, in the investor world about repairs on investment deals. Right. I get this every month. It doesn't matter what month. I get it every month. I'll have an investor that comes in. We write up a deal. He'll hire a licensed inspector, which is completely fine. But he'll come back and he'll say, or she'll say, I want all these repairs completed on this inspection list that this licensed inspector gave me. I'm like, that is not how this works.
I just got that email. I won just today.
I swear I get this
one
every
of your clients.
month. Yeah. Is it?
$10,000 reduction.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. So that's from a licensed inspector.
Like it's supposed to close in like any day now.
Right. And
now they're coming and saying, I want a reduction of, and it's like, well, didn't you see the inspection like even before you did appraisal and all that stuff? And now you're coming. That to me is dirty dancing a little bit.
It is. They're trying to get you at the end. They're trying to get you caught up in your emotions of selling the home.
That's right.
No, I know exactly what that is. So when you come into an investment deal under $100,000, let's say, and there's $5,000 worth of repairs that include some painting, some rotten boards on the outside, maybe a little plumbing, faucets are leaking, maybe some carpets damaged in one of two of the rooms, and you need a tub replaced. They come in and they say they want all that stuff repaired. So truthfully, the seller is in no mood on an investment deal now. Let me preface this. To replace carpet.
Right.
Yeah. So you got to be careful on what you're asking for from a seller in an investment deal. They typically don't. If they wanted to replace carpet, they'd have done that and kept it.
Right.
That's the idea is to
they're not in the
it.
mood to spend any more money.
No,
they're
looking at
they got it for sale for $50. I'm going to pay closing costs, say $4,000, $5,000. I want $45,000.
Yes.
In their mind, that's where they're...
That's right. So what I try to do is some sellers will say, hey, if it's major roof, okay, I'll negotiate that with you. I understand that you don't want that, CapEx expenditure coming into this. If it's carpet and paint and rotten wood, please don't ask for that.
Right.
Because all you're doing is, for one, I'm going through an exercise that is unnecessary. Two, me first and foremost, right there. But two, the seller's going to get upset. You don't want to, because he's not expecting that. So just kind of know what you're getting into when you come into an investment deal and you see some cosmetic stuff that's minor.
Right.
You likely shouldn't ask for that. What I have seen do, can we reduce that price $1,500? I know it's $5,000 on what you see. There's really only about $1,500, $2,000 here. That's
really need to be done.
Right? Can you do that?
I swear I can't get enough listening to